72 hours ago, I was at a rave. I noticed my phone blowing up, and people were texting me about, hey, did you create this Modi token? It went from that to 1.5 million in a few hours. And then I was like, oh shit, now I got to figure out what to do with this. That's fucking insane because you were deploying like crazy at the peak of the bull market.
My name is Mia, and you're watching Proof of Talk, a short series of podcasts where I'll be interviewing the leading founders and investors in crypto. All interviews are unscripted, meaning the guests have no idea what I'm about to ask, and neither do I.
Proof of Talk.
We're in Hong Kong, and today I'm with Akshat from Maelstrom.
How's it going?
Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
This is your home.
This is my home.
Yeah. When did you move here?
Moved here in 2019.
Okay.
A long time ago.
Was this like a COVID decision?
No, it was before COVID. I came here to join BitMEX. So at the time before 2019, I was living in Chicago and I was working at a private equity firm and learning a lot, but thoroughly bored with what I was doing relative to my nighttime hobby, which was trading crypto.
Yeah.
And then I joined. I remember I found a LinkedIn post, a job listing for a job at BitMEX to join their investment team. And it said people who are not Hong Kong residents or don't have a permit to live here and work here can apply. I didn't have either of those, but I just decided to apply anyway because the job looked awesome. And then 6 months later, I got a message from someone from BitMEX.
6 months.
6 months had
You'd
passed.
probably be like already over it.
Yeah, exactly. I was like already doing other stuff, and I was at that point. I was in the job process. I was in the interview process with Consensus Ventures and Coinbase Ventures and some of these other groups. But then I got the call from BitMEX, and then they re-engaged and they said, "Look, we've gone through 500 resumes and had a bunch of interviews, and we haven't found the candidate that we want. So even though you don't have a connection to Hong Kong, we still want to interview you."
Yeah.
Went through the process, interviewed with Arthur, and then got the job. So I moved out here in 2019 in September.
And you were where before?
Chicago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you move here without being here before? Like you just decide to come to Hong Kong like...
Pretty much. Well, so I'd come here as a tourist when I was a teenager.
Okay.
I was doing I got some exposure, during the heyday of Hong Kong, back when China's economy was booming. That was like 2010.
Okay.
It was very alluring, but I never thought I'd live here.
Yeah, and then you just stayed. So it's obviously good.
Yeah, I came here in September 2019 amidst the protests. There was like a people's democracy movement. It was very beautiful. And then COVID hit in Q1 of 2020. Then I was trapped in Hong Kong for 2 full years. They had kind of a no one in, no one out policy. But if you were in, it was pretty fun. It was a great time. It was one of the best places in the world to be during COVID. Then in 2022, I was at an inflection point because I was leaving BitMEX and trying to figure out, what am I going to do next? And I decided to stay here, even though I transitioned to Maelstrom and started doing other stuff. I don't really need to be in Hong Kong, but now it's been 5.5 years and I think I'll stay longer.
You really like it. Yeah. Look, this year has been like so chaotic. Like it just started with a bang. Mm-hmm. And I feel like it just set the tone for, it either is setting the tone for the rest of the year or we're going to get super exhausted, by April or something. Yeah. And things are going to change. Tell me, like, how do you see things happening? Because, like just 3 months ago, I was asking people what they thought the impact of Trump, no one knew he would launch a token, but what the impact would mean. And no one saw anything like this coming, in January. Mm-hmm. Give me your thoughts.
Yeah. So anyone who's read and followed Arthur would probably notice that in the last few months, he was talking about a Trump dump. He was predicting, a few months ago that a lot of people will be disappointed when all the anticipated changes that people expect from the Trump administration that would be positive for crypto don't come to fruition that quickly because it's not possible. Like structurally, the president can't really do those things. And that was his first thing he said. Second thing Arthur said was that it's also not his top priority. They're trying to seal the border and there's doing trade wars and stuff like that. It's a completely, those are the harder, bigger ticket items that are more challenging and require more resources than the crypto stuff. And that's not the top of the list. So as a result, we were kind of preparing for that. So we started exiting a lot of positions because we have a VC book, which we don't like dump that book, but we have a liquid book as well that we launched about 6 months ago. And we started exiting a lot of positions and preparing ourselves for this moment. So we ended up doing quite well in that regard. And now we're sitting on some dry powder, expecting a little bit more of a crash before we dive back in.
Okay. Did you see the news from Andrew?
Which one?
That went under Kwan?
No, I didn't follow what happened.
Okay. Because he got into robotics. Like he sold his crypto.
Yeah.
Yeah. You haven't seen this?
We got invited to the deal, but
okay.
Yeah, we didn't pull the trigger.
Was that recent or like back?
Yeah, pretty recent. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There was like a major SPV in one of these robotics companies. I think we're just going to stick to what we know well. I think
it makes sense.
For us, like, that there might be some crypto investors who really know like all cutting edge tech. I don't really think so, but they think they do. And so they'll get into AI, they'll get into robotics, all this stuff. But we think we're good at one thing. We're just going to stick to that, especially as a family office. There's no reason to stray from our strategy, but we have done 1 or 2 deals outside of crypto. But for the most part, we're focused on crypto.
Have you changed the strategy since, Trump token?
I'd say, our playbook is kind of cycle dependent. So my favorite time in crypto is during the bear markets. That's when you have the highest quality founders. That's when you have actual net new ideas.
Yeah.
You have, deals are a little bit easier to get into because a lot of funds have blown up. And then you have what to me I find very bizarre is when there's a bear market, especially in the beginning of a bear market, you have these funds say, we're not really deploying right now. I'm like, why? That's fucking insane because you were deploying like crazy at the peak of the bull market. So that's when we come in and we get better valuations. So that's my favorite time. And then as we get, kind of through the inflection point where things start trending upwards, that's when we go more into liquids. So we, hold our venture book, most of our portfolio on the venture side. We invested in those companies from like the end of 22 to the maybe like Q1 24. That was like probably the last set of venture deals we did. And then over the last year, focus on liquid. And then now in this part of the cycle, we're a lot more opportunistic. So there are some random dislocations in price where, something happens in macro, prices collapse, and then all of a sudden there's an opportunity that pops up. So that's kind of how we're playing it now. But we're not deploying as aggressively as we were for the beginning half of the cycle.
Yeah. Do you think it's going to change?
We'll see. One thesis that we're running with is that Trump is trying to swallow all the bitter medicine now for the US. So, with trade wars, with the reciprocal tariffs, just getting it all done now, which will cause the market to freak out. And, obviously crypto follows macro. And if macro freaks out, then so does crypto. But then eventually, there's an incentive sort of in place structurally for presidents to do this kind of stuff, to wreak havoc early and then benefit from money printing, because that's the only solution that our system has.
Yeah.
So eventually he breaks some shit. There's talks of recession or there's recession. And then the Fed has no choice. They're just going to do what they always do. They've done every single time since it's existed, which is print money. So then we have another cycle. That's kind of our bet. Timeline, maybe over the course of the next 12 months for the full thing to play out, but we don't really know. It could be weeks, it could be months, but we're ready for when it does.
I feel like the impact of Trump was not like just the basis of like becoming the president and being able to change things, but like the influence and being on the spotlight. Because now, like we've seen, for example, like Argentina, probably like the guy felt more confident doing it after seeing that Trump had done it.
Yeah.
Obviously not the same thing.
Right. Yeah.
And I feel like it will be so easy to, see like more countries doing similar random things and not being like fully prepared for it.
Yeah.
I don't even know like what could like the rest of the year like look like after this. And I've seen like a lot of people like losing conviction in the space. So it's kind of like a weird, like we keep saying like we're in bull market, but like it feels like weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Feels like a sideways market because there's conflicting narratives, as you point out.
Yeah.
On the one hand, you have ETF adoption. You got a potential Solana ETF at some point. You've got actual use cases for crypto in DePIN, unprecedented institutional and political interest, and you've now got friendly people in the CFTC, SEC, some of these other alphabet organizations who will at some point start implementing new policies, but it's still early, and it's going to take years. So my bet is that on the regulatory front, we're going to see the benefits of that in the next bull cycle, not this one, because you say regulators start making new rules in the next 12 to 18 months. Then there's like a period where they're kind of tweaking and testing things out. Then there's lawsuits and the whole thing. It's going to take some time. So I'm not betting that any of the changes that are anticipated are going to come to fruition anytime soon. But still, I and Maelstrom and Arthur were all net long the market.
Is there something you think is going to like die out?
I hope meme coins do. While it's very fun and entertaining, and I got pulled into one fascinating little side story in the last 72 hours. But I think meme coins won't survive this cycle. I think most of the AI stuff, it was entertaining, but 80% of it was bullshit. They were effectively meme coins.
You mean like the AI agents?
AI agents, yeah. Yeah, which I just find it funny when the cycle is going, we delude ourselves as an industry, especially when something has the right buzzwords. But yeah, it's bullshit. So I don't think that'll survive. And the few projects that do survive, they'll actually evolve and become actually what they state that they are. What I think will thrive in the future and eventually will be bigger than DeFi is DePIN. But that's a long, we're talking 10 plus years. But eventually DePIN, is more representative of the actual global economy, given all the various use cases, than DeFi. So I think eventually it has to overtake DeFi.
It's a bold view, yeah. I haven't heard anyone saying that. So what do you think summer will be like? Because, we had like Solana summer, DeFi summer. What's this year is going to be like?
This year it'll be like a choppy sideways summer. I don't think there's any
choppy sideways summer.
Yeah, there's no new narratives.
Punchy.
Like right, exactly, very punchy. Yeah, not really marketable, but typically these cycles follow a innovation breakthrough, and we haven't had anything like that. We had smart contracts back in 17, 18, and that unleashed a whole wave of things. We had DeFi, the actual use cases for those smart contracts in finance in like 2020. So we had DeFi summer. We had these then we had staking stuff. All in 2022, 2023. All those business models related to that. What's the new actual innovative narrative? There's nothing right now that's that exciting. There's some portfolio companies that are just now building that we invested in the last maybe 2 years that we're excited about, but they're just building. It's going to be 12 to 24 months before those go to market. So right now, I'm not really sensing any new narratives for this summer.
Yeah. It feels like everything is so short-sighted at the moment. So it's you take it day by day.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah. So from the stuff that you've invested before, did you take what were the key, I don't want to say learnings, but is there a segment that you wouldn't invest on again? And is there one that you would kind of double down? I guess DePIN.
Yeah, I think the biggest lesson for me from this cycle was TAM is everything. So there was some, just the size of the market is way more important than I appreciated. And if you look at our portfolio, the most successful companies are those that are addressing massive markets. And there are some projects that on a revenue basis are quite profitable. They're doing well in our portfolio, but they're kind of capped. It's amazing. You're super profitable, but your top line is, only so much. And what's up for grabs is very limited. So even if you completely kill it and you're a tier one founder in your space and you've killed it in your space is only so small. So that was probably the biggest learning. TAM is everything.
Yeah. Do you think the way people launch tokens is going to change?
Yeah, we've been telling our portfolio companies for 2 years that the only way your token is going to achieve its goals is if your early users in your community gets rich with you. If the only people who get rich are VCs, angels, market makers, and barely even you, because you're locked longer than everyone else. The founders don't even make that much. And then now recently airdrop farmers, then you're kind of fucked, right? You created like, it's slightly better than what it used to be, 5 years ago in crypto, but the next iteration has to be your early community getting rich with you. So, obviously Hyperliquid was the first one in the DEX space to pull that off successfully and somewhat sustainably. It's still early, but it has to look like that. So focus on product and use cases and traction first, and then token should follow. But there's been so much emphasis on token first, and our token launch needs to be perfect. It needs to be listed by all the right people and this and that. I forgot to mention exchanges in that list of parties that make a lot of money. Obviously, exchanges make a fuckload on the listings process. But in the future, I'm hoping that in a DEX first world, which we're eventually getting there, where sexes are eclipsed by DEXs, that's going to take another 5-10 years maybe to get all the way there. But you're already starting to see the momentum. I'm hoping that eventually everything is more like a fair launch, and users are sophisticated enough to know, this actually has use cases, this is being used, it has traction, so I'd like to invest in the token, as opposed to, VC X, Y, and Z are in this deal, so a token will do well, and it's on Binance. That shouldn't be the metric of whether a token's going to do well, and sadly it is. And even when we're doing deals, we want to look at the company, but then, and the founders and all these other things, but then it's annoying. We have to also take a look at, but where's it going to be listed? And every time I do that, I feel like I'm cheapening, the intellectual process, and every VC is doing it, right? There's some VCs who literally don't even give a fuck about the company. All they're doing is where's it going to be listed, who's market making, and what's the valuation, right? And that's okay. I get it. The incentives are structured that way, but I'm hoping in the future that's rewritten entirely.
It's interesting because it also feels like it's getting easier to get listed. Am I wrong with that? I feel like they were listing more. Like before they were more picky.
I think, I think there's like a couple dynamics that were at play. So one, these exchanges were charging an arm and a leg. So some of them are charging up to 10, 12% from the projects. So projects were negotiating for longer. Also, founders thought they had more time. Now you feel a little bit of a rush. There's somewhat of a, look at like OpenSea, they missed like 2 cycles, and now they're just desperate to launch something. So they feel like, oh, fuck, we're going to miss a third. We can't miss a second cycle. So they are about to. So I think that's also at play, that there's like a rush to just list stuff. And then there was hesitation for a while, because last year it also looked like, are we in a bull market? Are we not? And some of our portcos were questioning, should we launch? But the ones that did the best last year were the ones who just said, look, the token is not the product. Let's just launch it and focus on the product. And those are the ones who did the best last year. I'm hoping people take the same attitude now.
It's interesting. I've thought about this contrasting thing, which is something that's been around for a long time. Say, like, I'm going to mention like NFTs as a reference here. Maybe it's not the best. But like the punks, for example, having like a strong heritage, been around for a long time. Therefore, this happens a lot with NFTs, but I feel like with tokens as well, like Dogecoin, whatever old popular meme coin. So like the history, how long it's been around and surviving time seems to have some values. Then later they drop something like Pengu, for example. It seems to, like perception, like it seems to have some value. But at the same time, when Verichain and movement takes so long to launch and drop token and so on, people get impatient. And so what's the best dynamic here? Is it better to wait and like build this storyline, heritage, whatever you want to call it? Or is it better just like go like straight into it?
Yeah, I think it depends from whose perspective. So the investors, okay, we'll break it down. So investors, there's two, right? There's like family offices, and then there's the ones who are in the fund management business. The fund management business guys, they are incentivized. They won't say this, or they won't even admit it to themselves or even be aware, but they're incentivized for the projects to not list, because they just mark their books at the latest valuation, right? And so when something lists and it dumps 50%, that's worse for them. And that's usually what's happening nowadays. So they kind of don't want the projects to list yet until they've fundraised for their next fund, because then they get to fundraise off of that unrealized book. So they're like, they look at the track record, right? Investors, LPs in their fund look at that track record. And so fund managers have an easier story to tell if the project hasn't listed yet, because they're fundraising off of a kind of a fugazi track record.
Yeah.
They may not say this or admit it to themselves, but that's a factor. Family offices are incentivized kind of the other way around. We're a family office. We want to know what the reality is of the actual market price of the token, because we're locked for a while anyway, and we can't make good decisions if in our minds we're like, well, they fundraised at $1 billion, but when they launch, it collapses to like 500 million FTV. It's very hard for us to make decisions. So we prefer to know what the actual market price is, which is why for 2 years we've been pushing our companies to not do that. And there's other parties, like retail, obviously, especially the airdrop farmers, they want shit to just list because they can get their tokens and dump.
Yeah.
And then actual users of the platforms, I mean, not that many users of most of these projects. So who knows? Who knows what they actually want, because there are not many of them. But the high quality projects that are actually being used, I think they want the thing to list as soon as possible, because they're actually using the underlying product, and the token is just a bonus. So for them, they're incentivized to use it and then get bonuses in exchange for using it, because they're not like just airdrop farming, they're actually using the platforms. So yeah, it kind of depends on the counterparty. And the founding teams, I think they're just nervous because for them, there's the monetary aspect, but they're locked for, 3-5 years plus sometimes.
Yeah.
I've seen a project where founders are locked 7 years, which is insane. But those guys, I think for them is a little bit more about the ego, and also being able to look their investors in the eyes. Because, if they if they fundraise at a 300 million valuation and then they launch and it's like 40 million, then they feel embarrassed.
Yeah.
I really don't think they should. I think the investors should feel embarrassed. I don't think the founders should feel embarrassed at all. But you can definitely feel that dynamic. So founders are often nervous. Oh, I want to list and launch at the perfect time in the market. Good luck with that. If you could time the market, you probably wouldn't be doing what you're doing right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of different counterparties looking at different sides of it.
Interesting. How do you keep up with what's happening? Is it you go like on Twitter? Like what's your go-to?
I go in cycles. So sometimes I don't want to keep up with what's happening because it's a distraction from, if your objective as a early stage venture investor is to look at the next 2 to 5 years, then getting caught up in something that's hot for 3 months can often cloud your judgment and waste your brain space. So often I try not to. But then there's other times where, all right, what I want to learn, what did I miss? Because there are definitely things that I missed, like the AI agents thing, and I was kicking myself in the beginning, and then started learning about it and reading about what they actually are and using them and realizing they're not actually AI agents, they're meme coins. And I was like, okay, I'm happy with that. But I wouldn't have come to that realization and learning process if I was like always looking away and refusing to engage with what's the latest thing. So it's a mix of crypto Twitter, just to see what people are talking about, plus just researching what's the latest in infrastructure. It's a combination.
What's something crazy that happened recently that you're actually like really...
Yeah, I mean, there's something very, very random and crazy that happened in the last 72 hours that I'm not quite sure how to play yet. So when I was testing out Pump.Fun about 9-10 months ago, I was like, okay, what is all the hype? I want to understand how is this being used and just like explore it a bit. So I created a token on Pump.Fun, never told anybody, didn't tweet about it, didn't share it with a friend, never told Arthur. No one knew about this token because it was just an experiment for myself.
Yeah.
So I created this token, and it happened to be happening during the Indian election that Narendra Modi won. And so I was like, okay, that's cool. It's 4 letters, Modi. And then I just created the token. And then about 72 hours ago, I was at a rave, and then I noticed my phone blowing up, and people were texting me about, hey, did you create this Modi token? And someone on Twitter apparently had found my wallet. First of all, like somehow they linked my wallet to me, and I don't know how they did that. And then they noticed that I created this token, and they started tweeting about it. And the token went from basically worthless, because it should be worthless. It was like FTV was like 15K or something like that. It went from that to 1.5 million in a few hours. And then I was like, oh shit, now I got to figure out what to do with this because I don't want to go to jail. I barely even own any of this token, but I'm also learning. And I think there's a tendency for like, tier one VCs to refuse to engage with the meme coins and look down upon it, this and that. But why? I mean, it's people, it's entertainment meets investments. It's investatainment. And there's something to be said. I mean, there's something to learn there. So I decided to start engaging with that community, the ones who are rebooting it. And now I mean, it's been about 3 days and I'm just going to like do this in a safe way and just tell people, look, it's your coin. You guys rebooted it. I may have created it. I don't own very much of it. I went ahead and locked my tokens publicly. So, no one can accuse me of dumping because even if they weren't locked, I still wouldn't dump them because again, it was just an experiment. Yeah. So we'll see what happens. That's like a crazy thing that came out of nowhere.
That is, yeah. That's a really good story.
Yeah.
I could talk with you for hours, but we need to wrap it up. For everyone watching, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter. It's Akshat_HK or Maelstrom_Fund.
Akshat, thank you.
Thanks.
Proof of Talk.